attended San Diego State University for his master's degree, and the University of Southern California is where he earned his doctoral degree in educational psychology. From 1998 to 2009, he served middle and high school students as a school psychologist in the Long Beach Unified School District before becoming an associate professor at Cal State University, Long Beach, in the College of Education for the Educational Psychology program. He has had the honor to serve as the advisor for the Black Student Union at CSULB. He has presented at national and international conferences regarding disproportional placements of minorities in special education, access to quality mental health care in schools, African American student achievement, and mediated learning experiences. Dr. Gamble's work, written work, and research has focused on African American males' social capital and familial support, networks that empower young men to succeed in academics. Dr. Gamble has given back quite a bit to our department. When I was taking Black Psychological Perspectives with Dr. Hodnett, he actually spoke to our class, and he's also given back through the club, talking to our members to encourage us to achieve a lot. And so now we will hear him sharing about the success, college success for African American men.
Dear Lord, thank you so much for this opportunity to be at the School of the Prophets. Hope to live up to all they've put in me. Thank you so much for Oakwood University. Thank you for the students. Thank you for my family. So I'd like to start off definitely with prayer. Don't get to do that too often. I'll do it right outside the door, but I don't get to do that at the beginning of any talk that I give at a secular university like Cal State Long Beach. So I want to give praise to the Creator, Jesus, who saved me. I was listening to the Aliens concert last night, and both my daughters teach me about this because I'll cry later. And just thinking about the vision that God was able to share with me, that my daughter would be Oakwood. First in my family. I'm going to do it.
Oh my gosh.
So, got to remember ancestors gave so much for us. Just even sit up here and eat this food and look all good in this beautiful building. And every time I walk down this hall, I feel next to the Holy Spirit, peace and comfort that He gives. I think my wife's not even here. She's out chilling with her friends. That is my wife. I met her. She had 3 jobs. She was right across the way over there doing tutoring. She was an intern at NASA. She also worked in any other way she can, doing retail, sales, or whatever. Without her, I wouldn't have made it to graduate school. A call from San Diego State saying that we like your application, but it's not finished. You got just a couple more pages, which was 7 essay questions, which turned out to be almost 10 pages that I had to write. So my wife and I, we drove over to Kinko's over off the university, and I would type and she would fasten. I would type and she would fasten. Next week, they said, well, we like your application a whole lot. We want you to come out and interview. I said, really? I don't think you understand. I just graduated from Oakwood University in November. Now I'm working at Walmart. I load the truck at night. I got to be at the night shift or they won't pay me. Yeah. I don't think you understand. These are secular people speaking God's words. We got a plane ticket for you. All right. Cool. So, there's my wife. So, I get a plane ticket. I go out there. I'm just so filled with the Spirit, they sent me this packet, about 20 pages. I had to read it in order to interview at San Diego State. So I read that thing on the plane. I read it. I stayed at my parents' house in Native, California. I go there. I really don't remember much about the interview other than, and I really didn't even care what they thought. I just told them this is what I'm going to do. And I'll talk a little bit about how I got into that zone and how I kind of try to stay in that zone. But yeah, they accepted me. But classes started in 2 weeks from then. It was June. Classes were going to start in July, and my wife, who's an outstanding CPA, had already budgeted for us to be there in August. I said, all right, you got me this far, God, what you going to do? They had given me 2 tickets so I could reverse the other ticket, give that to my wife and bring her out. She sold everything we had. I didn't have much. I had a whole car, smelled like somebody's beer. I bought it at auto auction. My wife sold hers, and we went out to California, and I started. But here's the kicker. I didn't even know they were going to do this. I had full tuition paid for it.
Amen.
They, not only that, let me show you how God works. They were giving me an extra $400 a month just to be at San Diego State. These are things I wasn't even aware of. God will take care of you. So when I say that I'm appreciative of what God has given me, I'm coming from a real place. I'm always thankful for my girls, my daughter Nisa, we're in the kid and play, taking me back like I was in college again. And my daughter Bria, who's here at Oakwood, just excited to see them there. Grateful not only to study psychology, but to be the witness of the enlivening of the soul. Psychology is really the study of the soul. They don't necessarily break that down in a lot of Western textbooks, but if you're coming from the black psychology perspective, as Oakwood likes to remind us, his book, Know Thyself, psychology is not only the study of the soul, but it's also to bring forward that soul, to shine light on the beauty of that soul. That's one of the things I definitely learned here at Oakwood. I'm going to give thanks. We share testimony. I'll talk a bit about the future, so if I can break that down. And the title of my talk is You Don't Know What You Don't Know. The Association of Black Psychologists, particularly at our board meetings, we've been having conversations with Dr. Vincent Cook, who's our historian and past president and distinguished psychologist. But he shared with me this concept, and there were things that I really didn't know. So as I give thanks, I'm really giving thanks to people who helped me see things that I couldn't see. First is Professor Lutilla Carter, who was the chair when I was a student here. She was the first school psychologist I ever met. She reminded me as I was working with students at the academy that sometimes it's good to be patient. And I don't know if you ever talked with Professor Carter, but she talks nice and slow. There's no need to rush. You'll figure it out. Dr. Magna James, who I took 2 classes with her right here in this room. I think she goes by Magna Parks now. If you particularly want to apply Christian psychology, look her up on YouTube. She's got 2 or 3 really good videos on it. I looked kind of rough when I came in sometimes, particularly for 8 o'clock classes. I don't know if y'all know about 8 o'clock classes. Yeah, that was the only one I had to take at Oakwood. It just wasn't going well. So she one day left her room, her office. I remember having to go up to her office upstairs and get blessed out from time to time. She came to Edwards Hall, to the lobby, and called me down and said, "Is your problem? You seem to have a lot of potential, but you don't seem to know it. So I came here to tell you, but also get your stuff together. What is the matter with you?" And I told her I was pledging the fraternity at the time, and she said, I don't know if you've ever met Dr. James, but she was through with me at that point. But she stayed on me. And I always appreciated that. Because it's not something that happens at a large university or just about anywhere else where your professors will come and tell you to get your stuff together right in your dorm room. Dr. Carlton Holden. Yeah. He's the one who, first male psychology professor I ever had. He also used to just pray with me about everything. Like, I don't know what's going on, but if we pray about it, we'll figure it out. Dr. Alumni. He was a Muslim professor. But he made sure that we prayed before every class. He said, well, I ain't going to do it because I got my own thing. Y'all have met Dr. Alumni, but he was a former Black Panther. But he encouraged me in front of class. We had a paper that we had to write. We read it out loud, and I had some ideas that were, I don't know, for, I guess the term today would be Black Lives Matter type ideas. And he encouraged me. And he also gave me a critique that it didn't bring me down, but it built me back up. Dr. Spence, I was here, did research. She taught a research course. She wasn't here long, but I did a study on TV, the impact of TV on children. There was a bunch of us who did kind of the same study, but she really helped make sure our papers were done. Dr. Roland, Dr. Roland McKenzie, although he was in education, he taught me metaphysics. And the rest of my classmates in graduate school, they didn't know nothing about metaphysics. We got to axiology and epistemology and all that other stuff. I was killing it. He went to USC like I went to USC. Dr. Everton McIntosh, he taught statistics. I was freaked out by statistics. Both my parents are math teachers. I did not do well in math, but he just had a way. He was so smooth and easygoing, like he was still on the island. He had that good island accent. Don't worry about it, man. You'll be all right. Dr. Belvia Matthews, I was telling somebody earlier, she took me to the first psychology convention I ever been to, the Alabama Psychological Association. We went down to Gulf Shores. All these white folks listening to Jimmy Buffett and doing poster presentations, and this is easy. I can do this. This whole thing is easy. I got this down. But it took some convincing. It was 6 hours ride down from Huntsville to Gulf Shores and 6 hour drive back. But by the time we came back, I was ready to go. She even told me this wild, fanciful story about the Association of Black Psychologists. Now, at the time, this film called Coming to America was about 4 years old. But the way she made it sound like I was going to Coming to America, the land of Zamunda, and all these other psychologists with all these flowing robes. And sure enough, if you ain't been to the 80 South Convention, that's about what happened. Dr. Melvin Davis. I wrote about him in my, went to San Diego State and we did a portfolio rather than a thesis. I wrote about him because we were taking classes down in Moran Hall. At some point they couldn't get the heat right. And about 2 or 3 of us had knocked out. We were asleep. So it was just really, really hot, although it was cold outside. So he hollers at us, wake up, wake up. There are other people, and this was experimental psychology. We were about 2x2 factorial design and all this other stuff. And he said there's other people who are making decisions about your people. And if there's not enough of us who are in a position to influence policy, you miss out. I only have one class with him, but I gotta be honest with you, I'm a qualitative researcher. I don't remember much about that quant class. But waking up, sure enough, I do. So mention all those folks and give thanks to them. Because I realized when I got to graduate school and I left Oakwood, I had all I needed. Now, Oakwood gave me the foundation, even in its lack, as it were. I tell my daughters about this, and some of my graduate students as well. I wrote my senior thesis on a typewriter. Why? Because the computer lab, the line was too long. Social work and psychology had the best computer lab, and even then, we had a dot matrix printer. I'm just taking it back. And the dot matrix printer wasn't exactly right. You'd miss out and have to start all over again, or you'd have to get back in line and wait till somebody else got it. And Professor Carter, she wasn't playing around. I see what you tried to do here. No, you're not getting the grade you thought you would get if you didn't get it just right. So, hand typed it all. Had to develop a sense of know-how and doing things for yourself. You right on time. Just no fraternity sometimes on campus, you might make one. Just make one, and it could last almost 30 some odd years. If there's not a club or an event, I didn't need a budget. That's one of the things I learned as I went to work as a school psychologist. I didn't necessarily need a budget. A lot of people wait for a grand other thing to happen. I'll start with prayer first. All that other stuff comes because if I'm in God's will, it's going to happen. I learned that here. Hard work. I learned how to do my stats by hand as well. I'm kind of in that between area. Dr. McIntosh really had to work with me. Because when I got to San Diego State, they had all these statistical computer programs. I learned how to do chi-square on my own. So, yeah, I still do it. Cracks my students up. They're like, there's a whole Excel sheet. So, I learned about paradigm shifts right here. Who's paradigm shift? I'm thinking this stuff is boring. Who talks about this? As soon as I get to graduate school, that's exactly what they're talking about. Your professors here are preparing you in a way that you don't even know yet. So 50 years ago, many black organizations were starting. For example, the Association of Black Psychologists started in 1968. Association of Black Social Workers, National Alliance of Black School Educators. Oakwoodites, something going with the psychology. Answering questions that people hadn't done in a way. I was talking to Dr. Hicks, another good friend from California. We talked before, but we were looking at the postal sections back there. Y'all are debunking myths right here. Doing outstanding work right here. So, Dennis Alexander, who's also on the board for the Association of Black Psychologists. I had you written down. I knew there were fellow Oakwoodites, but who are involved with the Association of Black Psychologists. But that time was very exciting. Folks with big afros, telling the world this is how it is, speaking things into existence, and sure enough, the psychology department is here. Folks need us. I had many questions about black success, particularly in my field, when people are asking, like, why are there so many black students in special ed? Why aren't students doing better when it comes to the achievement gap? Or what's with this violence thing with young people in the city? For me, the answer has always been Oakwood. And when I describe my experience at Oakwood, it's a place that sounds like heaven to many people. Right? Black folk going to class, doing amazing things. Like, I'm listening to all the alumni stuff. I'm getting goals. Like, man, I thought I did a little something with these folks. Take it to another level. I wasn't even the top in my class. Just one who was trying to stay in there. Yeah. So, this answer, when it comes to my dissertation, my dissertation chair, his name is Ricardo Stanton Salazar. He's a sociologist. He wanted to look at the relationships between people that help minority programs and what those relationships do. That relationship is called social capital. And he was asking, hey, do you know of any black men's organizations in the Los Angeles area? Because he said he'd been looking but couldn't find any. Now, I have what I call a scientific faith. I believe there's always black people doing amazing things. Sure enough, I found two of them. And I talked to them about the networks they have. One of the people who I interviewed, her name is Dr. Betty Walker. Her husband is Hal Walker. And they run a program called the African American Male Achievers Network. In her circle, I'm talking about the people who babysat her when she was a child, was Martin Luther King's sister. Dr. Charles Drew, she played with his children and grandchildren. Those tight networks. I knew it was in there. I had this faith going into my dissertation study. But when I saw it, when I heard it, because I'm listening to the transcripts, but I'm also like, all right, God, I see you working. Gotta have this belief that black people do amazing things. Yeah, sometimes don't match the reality of what we're witnessing here. We have to keep that in mind when we go out there, because so many people forget that, forget how beautiful we are. I mentioned my fraternity, not so much about the need to say that fraternity is all this or that. This was just my experience. My experience, again, creating something out of nothing. Folks were looking at my fraternity like, you guys, you show up, you got all the colors on and everything, but what do you actually do? And I had to think about that. How is this helping you get to graduate school? That was a better question. And I wanted to study educational school psychology. But more than that, just study. I wanted to be of service. So there was an area that had a after-school youth program. Usually, as it is with most folks in college, they know one person who has a car. I knew Lee Jackson, who's a dynamic praise. He was here yesterday. He was directing. He had a Ford Explorer. And I think they're supposed to seat 5, but we got about 10 brothers in there. And we headed to this after-school program, and we did tutoring. We did tutoring for 6 weeks. When we started it, I said, man, I need a position. I made myself the community liaison. For those of y'all taking notes in regards to your own resume, man, I was community liaison. And we did tutoring. They call us up and we come and help folks do tutoring. Straight out of Oakwood. All over Huntsville. If anybody was interested. My brothers came with me. I was able to put that on my application. I said, that's the thing that sets you apart. You actually did apply your ideas as psychologists, not just talk about it or write about it, but you did. I was grateful. We got there. We found 6th graders who couldn't do multiplication tables. But again, we had this faith that it would work out. We kept coming back. After 4 weeks, all those 6th graders, there was about 10 of these boys, couldn't do multiplication tables. They all knew the multiplication tables. So, no money on that program except for $3 for gas. Lee Jackson needed his gas. But we made a difference. In Edwards Hall, and in I'm using a very Oakwood term, my Benji fraternity here at Oakwood, I saw men who cared for each other, cared about making church and the communities and their families better. Dr. Bird made sure that we would at least help clean up after any church service, particularly during the week. And if folks see me doing community events, they wonder why I'm always picking up afterwards. It's just a part of being here at Oakwood. That's what you do after you hold the program, because you conceptualize the ideas and you see it through from beginning to end. I'm hoping y'all students are catching that. Because when you go back to your churches or communities, that's a part of what you do. So I wanted to share a few of my research findings here. All you gotta do is just start the slideshow. But I've had a chance more recently to take a look at successful black men. I wanted to interview their parents. There's not a lot of research asking black parents about what they got right. There's a lot of research about black parents who are upset with kind of the school system, rightly so. I'm doing some of that research currently. But there's not as much about when we get it right. So yeah. So I found these success attributes. So parents saw their efforts as an important part of their son's success. Parents, these black parents were mostly, a lot of my friends or my friends' parents' age. And these parents felt their son's progress was mostly positive based upon whether or not they got a job. I think that's an interesting conversation. And I had this with my father. He's like, you need to work son, before you go straight to graduate school. So, and we're not paying for any more of this. We love you, but it was a good time for you. But now you need to find some way to pay your way. Helping guide their sons was the greatest opportunity as a parent. Now, I asked him, what do you think that was? Maybe watching them or this or that. But no, parents, particularly these black parents of these successful men, they wanted a chance to have some influence on them. And as y'all know who are parents, connecting with your kids, having influence on what they think about and where they're going is a joy. This internal locus of control, I hope folks are familiar with that. Because if you have an external locus, the rest of the world is kind of dictating how you feel and how you rise and fall. But if you're internally located, you're more likely to move forward. But that internal locus of control, other personal factors, are frequently indicated to helping your success. This one right here, for those of y'all who are school psychologists, health and disability issues were attributions of challenges for their sons. These are things that they needed to overcome, but definitely being aware of that. I think we need to have more conversations about health and disability issues. They gave some advice about mistakes that parents may make. Some of this they were telling on themselves, but they were also thinking about parents in general. So some attitudes, they may be too lenient, they may be talking down, not being calm, and their lack of involvement, if they're not available. Poor parenting skills, not listening, punishing, lack of encouragement, and abuse. Every once in a while, if you follow Facebook, particularly the old people on social media, at least that's what my daughter's telling me. There's this meme that comes up about spanking, right? And this group was much more flexible. They weren't as hardcore on their sons, and much more flexible when they listen, when they connect. But this was a concern. Low value of education and unrealistic, low opinion of education. And this last part about manhood notions and how we conceptualize manhood, one of the things I appreciate about being in Edwards Hall around all these other black men who were striving is that we had a conceptualization of manhood that included education. What the mistake may be is that we don't include that when we talk about particularly young boys and men and holding on to that piece. And that may look very different to a lot of them. So helping them bridge that or even code switch at a time is important. This last slide on advice to parents. So be balanced in your parent approach and involved in your son's life. And being balanced means not jumping to a bunch of conclusions, at least as a lot of the parents were telling me. Parenting skills, knowing your child, celebrate them, have some college prep info and can keep that going. Role models and parent involvement. Parents should take precedent over the school info, right? And parents should be their kids' biggest advocate, particularly black parents. So planning, and again, we talked about locus of control as well. These high expectations was a big important piece. Thank you for the slides. So, as I close, I wanted to talk a bit about our future. I will say this, I am doing a study of successful black women, college-educated black women. And I wanted to wait until I started analyzing that data until I got 2 in college. So I have a good idea. That's just me. I'm very applied. I chose a field that's very applied, school psychology. It was a challenge for me to make a gear shift to become a researcher, but I still like that idea of applying what you know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to my daughter being at Oakwood. So good times. So our responsibility for this aid, this comes to each of us, but I'm also going to charge the psychology department as I close here. Elder Ward, who was a pastor at Oakwood University Church when I was here, he reminded me in a sermon so many years ago when preaching about men and about what's needed in the future. And you probably heard this quote before, but I'm going to insert people here. The greatest want of the world is the want of people who will not be bought or sold. People who in their inmost souls are true and honest. People who do not fear to call sin by its right name. People whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. People who will stand for the right though the heavens fall. as a school psychologist, I've sat in meetings, there've been 50 people around the room, and I completely disagree with them based upon science, and also based upon my connection usually to the family. A lot of times that's for black families. We're the only people of color in the room, and everyone else is trying to make a decision. As I was talking about, Dr. Davis told me to wake up, and y'all, as young people say, isn't this right? I'm hoping I'm getting this right. You got to stay well. So, yeah. All right. I charge the psychology department and alumni. Like the Association of Black Psychologists, we have a unique voice for our denomination in the world. Therefore, we must more visibly and loudly put forward a vision for psychology, wellness, and healing that goes beyond finding the deficit, and then apply that vision. So, Oakwood psychology faculty and students, looking forward to a more clear vision. I'll follow it. The rest of us, and each of us, challenge you this year, particularly students. Hold at least one workshop in your community a year. Hold at least one, where you're connecting with folks, letting them know about not just the science of psychology, but also that idea of enlivening the soul. Have a social media presence or a blog. I try a little bit, but get out there and share some info. Whether you team together, particularly as students or as faculty, but share some good thoughts, because public health has us beat. They get information out there. I'll show you one. Kindergartners used to do this when they cough. Their hands were dirty. And somebody said, just do this. Less sick kids. We got information about motivation. We have information about marriages staying together. We have all types of great information that the rest of the world needs. We need to share. Particularly coming from Oakwood, that's a powerful platform to share that information. Make a commitment. One Oakwood dot today. Encourage, invest, and pass forward a vision from the Creator for how to best enliven the soul. So for those of you that are leaving this year, connect back. Dr. Hodnett, connect back. Dr. Hodnett reminded me, when I was at San Diego State, part of my job was to be a recruiter. I came back from Youth Motivational Task Force, and I talked right in this room about going to graduate school. I didn't even know what I was talking about. But I was excited about it.
Yeah.
Because I knew it could happen. So, share back. Pray without ceasing. My last, before I sit down. Pray without ceasing for the peace and comfort of the Holy Spirit in our work. Thank you. I believe we have a question and answer time. Yes.
Okay, so you work as you have experience as a school psychologist?
I do. I did that for 10 years. And in the last 10 years, I've been at California State University, Long Beach, as a professor in our school psychology program. I'm a professor in the College of Ed. I'm the only, before Michael Connor left, he's a member of the Association of Black Psychologists, I'm the only tenured black psychology professor at Cal State Long Beach, which is only thing I can do.
As considering you've had experience as a school psychologist,
Yeah.
how do you separate being a dad and not, psychologying your children?
But my daughter, Nisha, right here, sit down, Dad. I don't know what you do at work. Right now, we just need to talk. Now,
No. I don't know, like,
did I?
doesn't-
You can work that out. You can work that. Go ahead. They can answer better than me.
I mean, I've never really seen it be an issue. If anything, it's actually been more helpful to have a psychologist as a father, because a lot of times, like, if my friends, they'll ask me questions, they'll be like, oh yeah, your dad's a psychologist, right? He could help me with this, and he actually can. Like, there's simple questions, not like deep things where you need like case studies, all this stuff, but no, like we haven't really had issues where like he's trying to psychoanalyze us or anything like that. No, like it's been more like I've been able to just get wisdom and other things just about my life more than worrying about having that to have to separate your work from home.
Some of it becomes a part of who you are. So There's certain things, if I wasn't a psychology major, sometimes I think, wow, what if I did something else? I wouldn't know whatever challenges that I have. I suffered from depression all my life. I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't sitting across from some kid going, all right, let me wrap up this case. Let me get home and let me call. I got good insurance, so let me call the people I need to see. I wasn't aware. And I think sometimes, too, because we, as church folk, we're really good at being able to cover and also reach out. And I got really good networks. So I wasn't aware, but the therapist asked me, like, oh, you felt this way all my life. So I process things very, very differently. Like my version of depression, emotions, takes me a little while to catch up to. Because I made it kind of stop them down because they're intense. Which makes, and I have a good friend, his name is Lionel Mandy. And he talked about it too, that it's also kind of a gift as well. Because I'm able to really sense those intense emotions right in counseling. I'm able to kind of feel what's going on, as well as it makes me very empathetic. Sure. So, who you are as a psychologist will ebb and flow too. I've always tried to keep in mind that psychology is, to some degree, a business. You go to any convention, like Big Pharma, they got all their test kits out, all those other things, and they're trying to tell you this is how it is, but it's really about that connection with other people. So before I became a psychologist, I was just brand new surfer kid from California. And God has blessed me tremendously. So I try to keep that in mind too. Blessed me tremendously to be a father of these two amazing girls. I have a gift and responsibility that my grandfather was the 8th grade education. He stood by me. You better get this right.
Pertaining to your study, with the parental involvement of your sons,
Yeah.
did age of the parents play a factor in whether they had like a positive or negative influence? And also, did the number of siblings, if that was a part of?
I asked about the siblings. Yeah, I can answer that one quickly. The siblings didn't play as much. The average age was in between 45 to 50 for the parents. And it didn't have that much variance in between the age. But that was kind of most of them, even like the most frequently occurring score, I gave kind of a range, 45 to 55, was where most of the parents were at. I had an end of 30. A number of 30 parents. Yeah, I was asking about another piece. Tech savvy issues played into it. Some of the limitations was that I did it all online, right? But I really wanted. I had 2 big pushes during Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays, and then again Easter and summer holidays because I wanted the students or former students to be able to talk with their parents, sit down with them maybe to help them kind of troubleshoot, but also kind of prime their mind for the answers. So self-report is always a little challenge with that. It's difficult to pull it all out, but yeah, it's still, I think we got some good answers going forward. Did you have follow-up to that
Yes.
one? Or okay.
So with the knowledge that you gained, because this is really good information, how did you turn around and educate parents on just your findings?
You know, I'm doing kind of like a 3-part. So the other one is I want to know more about Black women. And I'm interested in there's a difference in kind of where parents are at to make it more holistic. I have one that's kind of inserted in between, but that's coming from my work with the California Association of School Psychologists. When I was president, I didn't get a chance to get to this work. We had some other board issues politically, but now I'm finally getting to it. And we're asking parents about their experiences with school psychologists. And one of the questions at the end that I'm very directly wanting to apply is what kind of workshops do parents want to see? Right? And so rather than just show up with, hey, I know all this stuff about Black men, I want to show up and say, okay, what is it you're interested in and how's that work? And begin a dialogue. Because what I found with like the mental health stigma, folks just don't want to go right at it, right? They want to hear what they want to hear. And if we can establish a relationship, then we're more likely to. So I'm trying to establish partnerships with Black parent groups all up and down the state. And they've grown significantly with each school district. So one in particular is Riverside, very, very powerful. My daughter participated in their graduation. There's a huge Black parent group. And they have a Black graduation for students in Southern California. They come from all over. Some of them as far as Los Angeles, which is like an hour and a half. Like it would be like coming from Nashville, come down to Oakwood for your high school graduation. Right? But they come pretty far just to participate in this thing, but they have a strong Black parent group. So I really want to form a good relationship with them.
I had two questions.
Yes.
One's pertained to your study as well.
Yeah.
But did you go into this study thinking that education has a direct correlation to success?
I wasn't looking for a correlation. I just went with an assumption that in most of the studies have shown if college students make it to their second year, they're going to be more successful in life. At least make it to their second year. I also know the issues with retention. So the sample I wanted were folks who had made it. And most of them, the sons had made it. So maybe 25 out of the 30 had actually made it to a career. The 5, though, that didn't were instructive in that the parents were concerned about financial issues and really kind of the one that surprised me was the disability and health issues, that they really hadn't addressed like learning disability early on, or they kind of pushed it off or pushed it to the side, or that their son had suffered from a significant health-related whatever it was, and that they really weren't able to connect with them because either they were too far or the son was kind of on their own, kind of taking care of it.
Okay.
One second. Just before you follow up with that one question, I just want to recognize Dr. Karen Ben Marshall, our academic vice president. She's here with us today. She has another venue to attend, but I just wanted to recognize her as she's here. Thank you for joining us.
The second question was when you said that they were happy when their son got a job.
Yeah, they attributed that to success.
Is that broad, like
Some
at
level of
Walmart,
employment.
or is it I'm making $50,000-$60,000?
No, they didn't break down the numbers, but it was more like they have employment. They're gainfully employed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on a basic level.
Yeah.
Second, one of the things that I was thinking about, having done similar kind of research, but it sounds like the things that you were looking at were collegiate age men.
Mhm.
Okay. And so one of the things that when I think about parenting and I think about the issues for many parents that may be younger than that, okay? So non-collegiate age men, right? Or young men that are just struggling with high school or in middle school. Some parenting issues there. How might you take and extrapolate and move your research into dealing with issues in the community that are impacting and affecting our
So, and some of the other, I can keep going, but some of the other breakdown and major takeaways I have from parents. First thing one parent told me, I need a workbook. This would be great for some of the community programs we're having. And a lot of it had to do with flexibility, time, and how you manage the involvement. There's a lot of research in regards to parent involvement and what that looks like. But, and it's changing in different ways, but there's flexibility and being open to where their son is at was the biggest piece I got out of this, and this study as it were. So, and I'm cautious about wanting to push it too far, get too much out of the data set that I got. But
And that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm more
yeah.
talking about moving it into doing additional research, but in the community for students that are not yet collegiate.
yeah, there's some folks who are doing some good research, and some of my dissertation students are doing that as well. Whether they're looking at single-sex schools or what do they call it? These programs, single-sex programs, particularly for African American boys. I've just been focused on the parents because they have, to me, when I work in the community, they seem to have the least amount of voice. So after they leave the room and everybody's all grinning and smiling, there's people that say stuff behind their back. And they're not doing it with the data set, they're just with an assumption. So next few years, I'm going to be focused on that piece. The person who I think who does an outstanding job with that, and I'm having him come out to speak to the California Association of School Psychologists, is Leon Caldwell. He's with the Association of Black Psychologists. And Dr. Caldwell has optimal building blocks for young men. I presented with him at the Association of Black Psychologists also. And I would defer to him on that. Right now, I'm very focused on parents. Yeah. I thought I said one other question, and I figured we're close to time. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Before when you mentioned being the only individual in a boardroom with a particular perspective, how did you resolve those types of issues?
I came to Oakwood as a transfer student. I was in a community college, I was taking classes where I was usually the only black student in there. Coming to Oakwood gave me the chance to be, again, the only male in the room a lot of times too. But it also gave me a chance to think about what is it we actually want. This is the piece I leave with a lot of folks. And I think going back to talking with folks in the community, what it is you actually want to see, the behavior, the life you want to see. You've seen beauty here at Oakwood. You've seen the fullness of life. Many people have not seen that possibility. They spend a lot of time worried about what's happening. So I stay focused on that. I stay prayed up when I go into meetings, because really it's not about me. It's about what we can do to resolve whatever issue for that student and also express God's will. So stay focused on those things. Thanks a lot for your time.